12:03 on a Monday, hour number 2 of the lunch break here on KDUS AM 1060. Also streaming on the KDUS AM 1060 app, and you can watch the show on our YouTube channel, KDUS AM 1060. It's over. We can officially say that the Phoenix Suns season is over. I know, mathematically, 2.5 games back with 4 games to play, they can still mathematically get there. They've lost 6 in a row. They play Golden State tomorrow. They are a team that looks like they are done. They look like a team that is ready to get on with this. They are ready to get to the summer. They are ready to get to the changes that are going to be coming to this franchise. And so we're going to also make that transition. We are also going to make that pivot. It is over. So now what? Well, now we can get on with having the conversations about what this future needs to look like. We can get on with the conversations of, should there be a change at head coach? Should there be a change in the front office? The Kevin Durant thing, that's going to have to wait until the postseason is over. That is going to have to wait until we find out who missed in the playoffs and who probably thinks they are one piece away, and so that they need something to take them over the top. So when I see a story, we talked about this in our morning meeting today, what's at stake in the West, the biggest matchups, storylines for the NBA playoffs, and there is a blurb written by Brian Windhorst about what's next for the Suns if they miss the play-in entirely. You bet I'm going to read those 2 paragraphs. I'm going to see what Brian Windhorst, one of the top NBA insiders, has to say. And he said a couple of things that are very interesting. Thing number 1 that he said that was interesting is he talked about how bad things are about the Suns being a second apron team, how they're going to miss the playoffs with a $400 million payroll, how they are in a dire situation because the player that they need to trade is Bradley Beal, and that guy has a no-trade clause, and that he's been on the record saying that he holds all the cards. So he talks about all of that. And then he says this, quote, okay, one more question. Do the Suns want to trade Kevin Durant this summer? No, not really. But the reality is that the Suns' pathways of getting out of the second apron to ensure that they have flexibility all seem to lead to Durant, end quote. Yet another indication that the door is still open for Kevin Durant to be on this team. Brian Windhorst is making the claim that the Suns do not want to trade Kevin Durant this summer. If you don't want to do something, sometimes it's hard to do that, right? I don't want at home to do the laundry sometimes. It's not one of my favorite chores. It is the chore that I am tasked with at home. I'm the guy that folds the laundry after it has been done, because we have a system in the house of the scent beads, I think they're called. They have to go in the washing machine first, and then the clothes go on top, and then there's a certain amount of the detergent that needs to go in there, and then we have a washer and a dryer. There's way too many settings on that thing. I cannot be trusted to put the clothes in the washer and start them correctly.
Yeah, I'm a Tide Pod guy.
Yeah,
in there, Tide Pod guy. Hit the normal wash every time, normal dry.
Yep.
Never mixed it up outside of that.
No, I don't. I am not in charge of that process because I need instructions laminated and put up in the laundry room. So I'm the fold guy. I can fold with the best of them. I know where everything goes. But just because I know how to do it, just because I know it needs to be done, doesn't mean I want to do it. Yet when it comes to the laundry, when it comes to those chores I don't necessarily want to do, but I know that I need to do them, there comes a breaking point. Whether it's the pile of laundry continues to stack and stack, or I get yelled at from the missus, I reach a point where I have to get the chore done. The Phoenix Suns trading Kevin Durant this summer is very similar to that analogy. The Suns may not want to do this. It may not be the thing that ideally they set out to do this summer, but I think they realize the laundry is stacking up. There's a lot of folding that needs to be done this summer, and so they just have to get on with it. They have to put a smile on their face, and they have to try to make the best of a bad situation. Because if this door continues to be left open the way that it is, the way it was in the Ringer story we talked about last week, the way it is here a little bit by Brian Windhorst, you start to get the feeling that they may try everything in their power to not trade Kevin Durant. And honestly, that would be the biggest mistake that they could make. This hasn't worked. This team is going to miss the play-in tournament with a $400 million payroll. You got to reset. You have to get under the second apron. You have to give yourself more tools. This is not strip it down and have one of the lowest payrolls in basketball. That is not what I am saying. But get under the second apron, give yourself more tools, give yourself a better roster to work with, and just reprioritize a little bit. That's what's next for this team. That's what they have to focus on. But before they can do that, before they can get to that conversation about what Kevin Durant's future is, they have to decide what they're doing in the front office, and they have to decide what they are doing on the bench with the coach and the coaching staff. There's an order to this. It is, what is our organizational structure? Because if you are going to make a change in your front office, that person needs to be empowered to make the decision that they want to make with Kevin Durant. You can't trade Kevin Durant until you know, am I bringing back James Jones? Am I bringing back Mike Budenholzer? Am I bringing back this same operation to run it back just with different players? That comes first. The other thing that Windhorst points out in this story is that the Suns may not be able to get back what they are looking for in a Durant trade. Apparently, when they were discussing a Durant trade in February, they were looking for a massive haul in return. That is the quote that Windhorst uses and cites sources telling him that. And he makes it out to think that the teams that are going to be interested in Durant are going to have high payrolls. And so you may not get a bunch of players and draft capital, and you may just be able to get somebody that takes on the money and you free yourself of the financial burden. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. I think there are going to be enough teams in the mix here, and I think in order to make the salaries work, the Suns are going to be able to get back some decent players, and they're going to be able to get back some draft capital. I think they're going to do quite well here once they ultimately decide to entertain trade offers for KD. But this is the pivotal decision that they have to make this offseason. Their ability to compete and contend and be playoff relevant in 2025-26, next season, is going to be solely dependent on what they decide to do with Kevin Durant and what they are able to get back in exchange for Kevin Durant. It's also going to be dependent on the decisions that they make in the front office. I think if they keep the status quo, front office coaching, and they get some different players in here, you stand a chance. I don't think you necessarily have to make a move. I would clean house. I would get a new voice in the building. Yes, Matt Ishbia is still in charge. Yes, this is still going to be his vision of competing and not rebuilding. But you have the ability here to just wipe the slate clean. You have the ability to get a new voice in the front office who may have some new, bold, fresh ideas, a new voice in the coaching ranks, somebody who is going to be a coach that can develop a team rather than try to be the quick fix, the Band-Aid solution. You can get somebody who will actually come in and do the work to rebuild a culture, to rebuild a leadership structure, to hold people accountable. That's what you forego by keeping the status quo. It's why I wouldn't do it. This team needs a culture change. This team needs a change in leadership. And so, more so than worrying about 4 coaches in 4 years, I worry about making sure that the next iteration of the Phoenix Suns has the right voice leading the charge. And Coach Bud is not the right voice. He just hasn't been all season. At any point this year, have you felt confident in the message that Coach Bud was selling you? Have you felt confident in his ability to make the necessary changes, the necessary adjustments to be able to put this team over the top? Over and over and over again, we have been concerned about Coach Bud lagging behind making some important decisions. making lineup adjustments, making rotational adjustments, making in-game adjustments. Time and time again, we have questioned why he seems to always be behind the 8 ball. This next chapter of the Phoenix Suns cannot have a coach who is constantly behind the 8 ball. It can't have a front office who has a resume of more misses than they do hits. What are the hits of this front office? What are the things that they have done well? Identifying Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro? Trading for Kevin Durant? Same front office that went out and got Tyus Jones. Same front office that identified Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen and Nurkic as pieces that could help this team. The resume is lopsided toward way more misses than hits. So as we have 4 games to go left in this season, we can now pivot our conversations to what this summer should look like, what this next iteration should look like. And to me, the moment this season is over, you may take a couple days to have your debrief meetings. You may take a couple days to think about it. But the decision needs to be made pretty quickly, swiftly. And if I were the guy making the decisions, if I was sitting in Matt Ishbia's chair, I need a new voice in front office. I need a new voice in the coaching ranks. I need a fresh change. If I don't want to tear this down, then I need to get the right people in place in my front office and on the bench coaching this next version of the team. So before we can discuss a Kevin Durant trade, that is the decision that this team has to make. What are they doing in the front office? What are they doing in the coaching ranks? Priorities 1 and 2, making that decision and making it definitively.